Nice.
On the left. Come on out of there.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you have an amazing week as usual. Now, this video is a little bit different. I'm actually at Dyfi bike park here in Wales, and I've gone and forgotten my bike. Fortunately, I don't actually need my bike today. I'm here with a bunch of other social media influencers, and we're doing a Continental Atherton experience, well, being a pro for a day. And oh my god, all our bikes are waiting for us up here. Spoilt for choice. It's going to be a bit of a weird one to film, so I think it's mainly going to be a voiceover, so hopefully I can make sense of the day. Here's hoping. You know you're in for a good time when your hotel room has goodies waiting for you. I needed a hotel because I've driven 5.5 hours down from Scotland to an equally gorgeous North Wales, home of the Athertons and Dyfi bike park. After breakfast, where I got to meet my fellow content creators, it was time to get more suitably dressed and take a short drive to the bike park itself. This is my first time at Dyfi, and I'm pretty excited. Although, I'm most excited about swinging my legs over one of the Athertons, the bikes I mean. As a bike geek, I love the manufacturing process of these bikes, and I'm keen to see how they ride. Before we got riding, we got to meet the people behind Atherton Bikes, plus also G and Rachel and their dog, who completely ignored me.
Plan for the day. I know a lot of you have ridden the bike park already, so a bit of a chilled start. We're gonna...
G and Rachel then gave us a personal welcome and a brief on the day's plans. I hadn't expected G to ride as he's still recovering from his brutal crash, but I was pleasantly surprised to hear he'd come do some laps with us, which is awesome.
Plan is first run, we'll go up and we just do a super chilled cruiser run down, just to, you know, check out the track, decide which course we want to do.
Oh, is this my beast, is it? Once the brief was done, I got to meet my bike for the day, an Atherton A150, the 150mm travel trail enduro model. G came and helped with the bike setup, and it's good to know the pros like a good old bike bounce check too. Now, in my starstruck excitement, I never actually got a clear shot of the bike, so here's from the Atherton site. Like their downhill bike, they use carbon tubes bonded into 3D printed titanium lugs. They do this model in 22 sizes to really let you get the perfect fit, and it has a unique DW6 linkage, which I've heard some pretty good things about. The bike I'm riding today seems to have a slightly different spec, with the main difference being a coil rear shock, my first time ever using one. Before I'd come down, I'd given them my weight, height, arm span and inside leg measurements, so the bike feels good. It just needs some tyre pressure tweaks and I'm ready to go. And of course, being a trials rider, I can't resist giving it a test on one wheel. For a 150mm 29er with a coil shock, it was surprisingly happy on the rear wheel. After some Red Bull, it was time to get to business and get up the mountain. As tempting as it was to wheelie all the way up, I'm not going to turn down the offer of an uplift. A friendly owl bond turned up and even put my bike on for me. Now that's what I call a good service. I find a seat in the cosy Land Rover and away we go. Along for the experience is Tommy C. Hype, McTrail Rider, Alex Rides Mountain Bike, Juliet Elliott, Charlotte Lucy Thompson and other friends. There are some great views from the top, and it was really cool to see how exposed G's original Ridgeline video actually is. Rach led the way, and we thought she was going to take us on a chilled one, but actually ended up taking us off a large drop to start. But at least it's a good way to wake up. Normally, I film with two cameras, a GoPro on my head and an Insta360 One X2 on the chest, but I'm out of practice and forgot to angle the Insta360 correctly. I don't think people want a ground angle, so today it's just a helmet cam. Very frustrating. Now this trail is called Super Swooper, which is a red trail that drops just over 300 meters. It starts exposed and has lots of flow as we approach the tree line. Now there's lots of chances to slide out on the loose shale and slate, so this was a good test of the new Continental tyres these bikes have. To be totally honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the previous Conti range, but I was genuinely impressed with these Crip Total front and rear models. I was only a couple of corners in, but they felt very confidence inspiring.
Hoping these tyres were gripping, and they sure did.
All right, mate.
That was class, yeah.
It's good down there.
Once into the woods, the flow continued with berm after berm. The trail then gets a bit steeper and tighter. It's also tough to show how dark it was in here. Even though the guys up ahead aren't pushing it, this was in at the deep end for me, having not ridden a mountain bike for 7 months. So, being slightly unconditioned for this type of riding, and combined with the SRAM brakes that were a little underpowered, bigger rotors please, I was actually starting to get bad arm pump already.
Jeez.
I was relieved for a little rest before the next section. I don't think bike setup is to blame for my arms, but I would like bigger brakes with a lighter lever pull. I think I mainly need to relax my grip though. But no rest for the wicked, and here we go into the bottom section, which has more berms, but also some jumps thrown in for good measure. Now, having not jumped this bike yet, I was pleased we weren't being led over the big kickers. But from this first ride, I was impressed with how much pop the bike had for being a big 29er with a coil. It feels bottomless, yet isn't scared of getting airborne. A nice combo.
Such a quiet bike.
That's the other thing that surprised me, just how quiet the bike is. It's hard to convey with the wind noise, but there is no chain or cable rattle, no creaks, no clicks, just the noise on the tyres on the dirt. Makes it feel like you're floating down a trail. The trail then ends with a full speed hill bomb down to the car park. Now I didn't quite dare go fully brakeless this time. Being a trials rider, I'm not used to speed, so I need to build up to these things. But I'm pretty sure, even with the brake taps, this is still the fastest I've ever been on a bike.
Oh, my arms.
So, one run down, and I'm already having just the best day. But things only get better as we head back up. I even learned to load my own bike this time. At the top, I can't help but get my excitement out with a few more trial stunts. And then straight back into Super Swooper. Only this time, we're going to head down to the woods for some cornering lessons. Now, I don't consider myself a bad rider at all, but I do have a lot of work to do with my cornering. I find trials riding can lead to a bad habit of not looking far enough ahead and looking too close to my front wheel. This means I often misjudge a corner because I've not looked far enough ahead to see where my exit will be. I sometimes lose grip on my front tyre too, so I'm hoping I can get some advice on that.
With turns, it's obviously slightly different.
Al Bond isn't only a great bike loader on the uplift, but he's also the Dyfi chief riding coach and knows a thing or two about riding a bike. He's great at explaining techniques and getting you riding at your best.
Probably then be looking mid-turn. Once you get into mid-turn, you'll then be looking for the end of the turn, so it's like duh, duh, duh. Yeah!
Rach then shows us how it's done.
You.
That's how you plan to do it?
Nice. So that's interesting. Like,
That was
nice.
Followed by Atherton World Cup rider Andreas Kolb.
nice, hard.
That's that strength in the legs. Do you see that push into the turn there?
You see how rigid his upper body was as well, like chest and head were barely moving. He was holding himself there.
So they're basically like pumping a roller, but
yeah,
just
it is, but sideways.
Yeah.
And with the twist of the hip. So it's like that, combined with that, is what kicks the wheels into
all
the turn.
in the hips.
Yeah,
And
it
all
is
the
all-
energy is going there.
Let's see if I learned anything. That felt much better.
These tyres are insane.
That was they were rapid. We didn't need to do a demo.
That was good pumping. Really good pumping.
These tyres are insane.
They are insane.
Yeah, they are good, aren't they?
Insane bikes. They're so,
They're
I
good,
can't believe how
aren't they?
quiet they are.
Yeah, quiet and
They do
the tyres are
inspire
mint.
confidence.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they just sort of like, they just take everything. They're like, is that all you've got?
What's the point? Through this bit, are you touching your brakes at all?
Nah.
I
think on the next ride is pretty much the first corner.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, it depends how quick you're coming in there. If you just roll through the tunnels, or if you pedal through there, you brake for the first one.
I feel like sometimes I have a bit of a panic brake in the corner sometimes, and the front wheel just goes. Or something.
Yeah, I used to practice it a lot, like ride really slow, straight before the corner, you feel really slow, and then roll through it, push.
Makes sense.
Brake nice again, roll through it, push.
Let's try these tips again on a different corner. I wish I could have spent all week with Al and the team, as I feel it would help my riding so much.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. That's it. Meet him at the bottom.
To be honest with you.
With fresher arms, this bottom section was a riot. It's frustrating how big these jumps felt, yet how small they look. Scotland doesn't really have jumps, so these felt like I was going to the moon. I don't think I used my brakes on this hill bomb, but it was a slower entry, so didn't feel as flat out as it could be. And speaking before about not having any jumps in Scotland, this meant speeding towards this huge kicker at this speed was terrifying, and I had no idea how the bike would react. But it handled it beautifully.
Well, I think that's officially the fastest I've ever been on a bike.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Can I have the lentil cottage pie, please?
After a bit of lunch to stock up our energy levels, we got some great advice on bike setup from G and his mechanic Ben.
Right guys, from this morning, the setup, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. I would say you're not going to need a lot of low speed compression. There's a lot of fast, chattery stuff here. You're going to want to run probably a higher pressure than you'd usually run.
I'm not the best when it comes to setting up my suspension, with it usually being firm and progressive for jibbing, so this was a valuable bit of information from people who know their stuff as good as anyone. This chat could have been an entire video on its own, but for now, let's get back to some action.
Then your arms have to do a lot of the work, so you're just tiring.
The sun was shining for our third run of the day, which, like the others, starts again on Super Swooper. There's no time to take in the views or the jets that blast up the valleys though. With everyone else already gone, I set off with Albon hot on my tail as we head down to catch them. No pressure then. Once we caught up, we then set off down a different trail called 50 Hits. This is Dyfi's jump trail, and the name hints on the number of jumps it has. Now it was time for a jump coaching session. I feel like I have decent jumping skills. I can jump at skate parks, and I'm not that scared of sending a big jump on a mountain bike, but I'm far from perfect and do sometimes have a tendency to get bucked. So I'm keen to put any ego aside and listen to some solid advice.
I think if we just start on the top of that, a few pedals, look at how we're compressing and pushing into this one, and then the same.
Al had us all hit this jump at a much lower speed and focus more on using our body and technique to get height rather than just relying on speed.
So we've got two different styles of jump here. It's keeping that energy on, so you go ooh, up like a rocket.
Going slow is a bit counterintuitive, but it's actually a smart way to get much better technique. It takes much more body input to get any height or distance, which is a great thing to learn.
Doing the half jump. More pump.
I must admit, being a trials rider, that going slow into jumps is kind of my forte, so I felt I was actually pretty good at this.
Also, if you picture like this trajectory is like if you put like a bridge over this, so there's like an arch covering, so you were just like riding over this. If you like picture how aggressive you'd have to be to get up and over that rise, that's the kind of energy that needs to go into like.
Al then showed his style over the larger kicker, and I just had to give it a try myself. Gotta say, it looks tiny watching it back, but I felt like a buzzard. The bike was so composed and didn't do anything weird, which is giving tons of confidence. Lessons over, we still had at least 35 hits left on the trail, so off we go. I never thought I'd be following G down a mountain, and even though he can't send the big jumps due to his recovery still taking place, I was just as stoked. This was a sick trail and a great way to get used to how the bike handles jumps. Other than G avoiding some of the impacts on the bigger jumps, you'd never guess he wasn't at 100% as he was still rapid. I'm sure he would have dropped me in seconds if he was fully recovered. It's not going to stop me from claiming I kept up with G Atherton though.
Whoa.
That was awesome.
I know, isn't it? And there's so many like little dive between lines.
With 50 hits fresh in our minds, we head up for another blast down. Though following the fastest guys proved to be tough and they got away from me, leaving me to try and remember the jumps and the correct speeds needed on my own. For my first time on jumps, I always like to follow someone, so this proved to be tough.
Oh, which way is it? This way. Getting lost.
someone to follow.
I did eventually catch up, and it was good to follow someone again. I previously followed G down the bigger bottom section, but he wasn't sending it. But I have a feeling these guys might not be holding back. I probably should have taken it as a hint when the faster ride in front doesn't send a big kicker, but I didn't and sent it anyway, where I suddenly realised I was going far too slow and ended up doing a savage nosedive.
Steady on, that was a...
I totally thought I was going to snap something, but the bike just shrugged it off. Durability doesn't seem to be an issue.
Put the frame to the test on that one. Straight back up, are we?
Yeah.
I don't think my arms can take another run.
As you can tell from our new lower GoPro angle, nosediving that last jump was such an impact my camera moved and I never noticed. Not ideal, especially when this was my fastest run, but it is what it is. And yes, we are doing Super Super again. There are other trails, but it made sense to do this one again now that we know it better. Andreas Kolb was leading, so I tried my hardest to keep up with him and the guys, despite my arm pump. Andreas is a cool guy, and I'm sad to hear he had a crash a couple of days after this and won't be racing at Fort William this weekend. But it looks like Dan and Rachel Atherton might be, which would be awesome to see. I'll be tuning into Red Bull TV and watching for sure. Following these guys definitely pushed my skills, but by this point I was more comfortable with the bike and trail anyway, so I'm starting to hit my stride a little bit. We're now at the berms we sessioned earlier, and I remember to keep off the brakes. It's scary and I had a slight front wheel drift, but overall a huge improvement.
Oi.
The arm pump is kicking in now though, and they start to pull away from me. I had to eventually hold back as I could feel my hand grip loosening and it was starting to get a little sketchy. A little rest at the fire road was definitely welcomed.
Ah, my arm's gone.
The last hill bomb next, and I was determined not to touch my brakes, so I tucked in and prepared to be scared. Muck Trail Rider was up ahead and I had him in my sights. A high-speed drift out of this corner was not planned, but I had good speed and was ready for an overtake.
Right.
Sorry if I put you off your line though, dude.
There you go.
After riding, we then had a session with Darren Roberts of Action Sports Solutions and Red Bull's go-to guy for athlete rehab and recovery. He took us through some Ministry of Silly Walk routines and gave lots of solid advice on how to keep our bodies working efficiently. So, back in the hotel, what a day that was. It was amazing to finally ride an Atherton bike. I've been following their progress for a long time, been wanting to ride one of their bikes for ages, especially since they've done this 150 model trail enduro bike. My takeaway is that the bike is so capable. I obviously didn't push it to its limits, although I did have one serious nosedive. I'm actually amazed the fork and frame survived from that, so they're certainly durable. The bike was poppy yet plush. It was actually just a really nice bike. It was also so quiet. I can't believe how quiet it was, and I don't know whether that's the bike itself or just modern tech, but it was so quiet. That was really nice. And of course, Dyfi bike park was insane. Those are some of the biggest jumps I've ever done in my life. That was some of the fastest speeds I've ever done in my life. Following these guys, they're such fast cats. Everyone was really cool. Fast people, nice to hang out with. It was just an awesome day. But yeah, I've had an absolutely amazing day. I really hope I can make this all make sense in the edit, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you did, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I'll see you next week. I hope you have an absolutely amazing one. So take care, everyone. Bye bye.